Hey everybody, welcome to our Hangout on Hour of Code. And we do have a couple different people with us, and I'm just going to start screen sharing until we get our slides back up. But we have Chris Lukes, who's going to be mainly quiet, and then we have Tanya Martin. Tanya, go ahead and say hello.
Hi, how are you?
And then from the Mobile Learning Network, we have Laura Briggs.
Hey, everyone.
And probably just a little bit later, we'll have somebody else popping in for mobile learning. But why don't we go ahead and get started? For those of you who don't know it, next week basically is Computer Science Week. So from December 8th to the 15th is Computer Science Week. And during this week, we are celebrating the Hour of Code. And that's the hashtag if you want to see it in social media. And so I'm going to let some other people tell what we're doing for the Hour of Code, because this is your preview of the events that we're doing for ISTE out of the Mobile Learning and Games and Sims.
Okay, thanks, Kay. It's so great to be collaborating with the Games and Sims Network, and it's always fun, always a lot of fun things that we do together. So thanks so much for working with the Mobile Learning Network. I have Mary Willis here also with us. She is the Mobile Learning Network's Innovations Committee Chairperson. And yay, her camera's working.
Yay!
Woo, she's here.
Hey,
Mary, say hello.
Hi, guys. Sorry about that. I had to...
And we're going to talk about some of the exciting things that the Mobile Learning Network has planned for the Hour of Code coming up. And this is going to be a great preview. So we're hoping to share all kinds of resources and strategies that everyone can use with their students and other educators for the Hour of Code.
Hi, and I'm Tanya Martin, and I'm the Professional Development Chair for the Games and Simulation Network. And later on, we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to talk a little bit about the Hour of Code and how we're all using it in our districts. And at the very end, I will go into the details of how the Games and Simulation Network is partnering with the IB Guild on World of Warcraft, and I happen to be right here on Cenarian Circle with my Blood Elf ready for the Hour of Code. And we do have people who have been joining us for a couple of weeks now so that we're ready to code on December 10th. So what is the Hour of Code? Actually, the organization that has put it on is code.org, and they are saying that it is the largest educational event in history. So millions of children all over the world and educators. So it's not just children, it's educators and those who are in an educational setting are spending 1 hour during the week of Computer Science Week coding in some way. They can do it unplugged, they can do it plugged, but they are spending an hour with some kind of an activity that requires that they solve a problem and do something that is associated with coding. And they've been, actually, I believe they've been approached by several organizations that, talk about the biggest, the tallest, the fastest, the so on, and, so because they have gotten millions and millions of people to be involved. So it's quite a successful event. There is a hashtag, Hour of Code, and it seems to be cropping up a little bit more, and I'm certain that on the week, next week during Computer Science Week, you will be seeing the Hour of Code hashtag come up much more often. I think there's even something going on tonight with some kind of a web chat using Hour of Code. So do check out that hashtag. And then we're going to get to the organization that actually advocates for the Hour of Code. Code.org is a nonprofit organization that advocates for the teaching of coding across the curriculum. They're basically saying that coding is a new literacy, and that no matter what you're going to do, no matter what field, whether it's medicine, education, industry, law, you will have to code in some way. And that is their focus, that is their vision, and the curriculums that they provide, some they are providing themselves that they've written, some they've partnered with people like Bootstrap World and GUTS, Project GUTS for Science, and they are writing the AP curriculum because in 1617, the AP exam in computer programming will be in JavaScript. And they really want to prepare children, all children, to be able to code. One piece of their focus is working with ECS, the Exploring Computer Science folks who wrote their curriculum through a National Science Foundation grant. And the focus of that curriculum is to introduce all children to the idea of coding and to increase those underrepresented populations in those kinds of classes. And that tends to be a lot of girls, because if you look at coding classes, there are very few females in them at this time. So we really want to change that around. And part of their curriculum actually has that kind of a focus to encourage females to participate in coding classes. And then I'll turn it over to Kay to talk about why coding is important.
Well, actually, it's pinging over to Laura first.
Oh, okay.
To talk about why coding is important. And Laura, we didn't quite introduce you to the point that they know about how you do science camp and you do coding in your classrooms, and you just, how can I say this? You play with the kids and they learn. So why don't you talk a little bit about why you think coding is important and why you know it's important also.
Absolutely. We are having a blast so far. We actually started our coding activities early this week, and we're also going to be doing them for the next 2 weeks before our winter break. And what we're finding for elementary students working on coding activities, we're really looking at this as using the problem-solving process. So in our classrooms, in all of our classrooms actually, we have a heavy emphasis on STEM. We have a poster of the problem-solving loop. And just today, for example, when I was doing one of the coding lessons with all the different grades, we relate how coding fits right into the problem-solving process. And we talk about how, students think of what a solution can be, for how the angry bird, for example, is going to travel to the pig. And if their solution doesn't work when they test it, then they think of another solution, and they don't give up, and they keep going and keep trying. I always kid them around, and I say, so are you going to stand up and have a fit and scream because it doesn't work? And they're like, no, we have to keep on trying and not give up. And so we really fit it in with our problem-solving loop and the students really thinking of solutions, testing them out, and keeping that loop going until a solution is found. And that's what we try to do, with our science experiments and even with some of our different math activities as well. And so speaking of not giving up, we have seen that using the coding activities at the elementary level really increases student confidence. And like Grid mentioned about girls participating in coding, our girls especially, some of them, like the first time they try it, they would just think, oh, I can't do it, or you need to help me, I need you to help me get these blocks. And we're like, what would you do? So we try to really encourage them and give them a hint here or there, but it really does increase their confidence, because by the end of the session, they're going on in levels and levels, and so we encourage them to keep learning and be persistent and resilient, and to keep trying their solutions, because they can do it. Everyone can code. And besides, coding is fun. I have a blast with the students. We're doing all kinds of activities. And I've heard so many times from students this week, it's been kind of cute. I keep saying to my assistant, yeah, there's another comment, there's another comment. They come into the lab and they're like, oh, cool, we're doing something different this week in the lab. Or they'll say, oh, yay, we're doing some coding activities. I love those. And so they're already positive and excited and motivated to do the activities and work on the solutions. And so we're really just going strong already and doing a lot of different activities this year to encourage students to learn how to code, also to try it from home and work with their parents or older brothers and sisters as well on some of the activities where they can be creative and build code and actually create something.
And I was going to say, if you want to jump in at any point, please jump in. Just unmute your mic and jump in.
Well, it's funny when Laura was talking about how that at her school they use the Hour of Code as a STEM activity. I am actually a STEM enrichment specialist at an elementary school here in Woodstock, Georgia, and I teach 1,200 students I teach the entire school essentially as a special area, and all of our work is based on the engineering design loop. So we go through that ask, what is your problem? Imagine what are some possible solutions, and then you plan your solution, and then you create, and then after you create it, that's when you experiment and improve it. So we go through that same loop with everything that we do, and particularly the coding. So it was just kind of funny because it exactly fits what we do in my kindergarten through 5th grade program as well.
Very, very cool. And I just wanted to throw in a couple things that people might be seeing. And I've been seeing this for the past 2 years actually. I've been working on student learning objectives at my college, and basically what do we want our student learning objectives to be? And we've been looking at a lot of information and technology literacy. And the thing about it, you will find that a lot of the research coming out, a lot of the white papers coming out, are now having coding as a literacy also. Some of the phrases you might hear are the scribes of tomorrow are going to be programmers. That it will be an essential literacy. And then there's also this really cool thing, and this is really for my language arts people who are out there. Coding is poetry. And if you ever look at WordPress, at the little footer tagline, it says coding is poetry. But just think of it, if you're coming from a language arts kind of feeling or the humanities, think about things like Shakespeare, iambic pentameter. Think about how everything has to be written a certain way. There's only allowed to be so many syllables. And then think about just exactly how close that is to quite honestly, coding and poetry. So we just wanted to throw that out there for those of you who might be thinking about, oh, well, I'm in language arts or I'm in some field and maybe coding doesn't apply. I think it probably does. So we're going to throw it over to Laura and Mary again.
Okay, thanks, Kay. And what Mary and I are going to talk about are some apps that can be used to teach coding, to get students involved in coding. And I guess, Kay, if you flip to the next slide, we have a short list going there. And I'm going to let Mary jump in and tell about some of the apps that she uses also, including some of these.
Yeah, and actually some of mine, the updates aren't in the slide, but I'm having internet connection problems, so that is not shocking. But this list, these are all very good apps for elementary programming, and what's great about almost all of them is that they have a hour of code activity embedded in them so that the students actually go through that, and it's estimated to be about an hour of code if they work through the activities, particularly Lightbot, and there is also a Lightbot Junior if you're working with students that are a little more early in your preschool. A lot of my special needs students go with the Lightbot Junior because I do teach, like I said, my entire school, which also includes my MOMI class and 2 EBD self-contained classes. So those classes we do a little bit of different things with, but the Lightbot Junior does work very well for that. Scratch Junior I think is probably one of my new favorites, because if you are familiar with Scratch, which is a product of MIT for desktop computers, laptop computers, and it works on any operating system, which is fabulous. Scratch Junior is their answer to an app for Scratch, and it's very similar to the original Scratch with a little less literacy fluency needed for the kids, and so it's very good for younger students as well. I have been very pleased with both Lightbot and Scratch Junior for that. Tinker is a ton of fun, and the kids really enjoy it. For your younger students, Daisy the Dinosaur and Hopscotch are great. I enjoy the CargoBot experience, and I like looking at it as a product of Codia, and so that's a good thing to kind of get kids into seeing what they can do beyond a simple program just to move a character or light up some switches or that kind of thing. Another app that I have discovered recently that I really enjoy for coding is Cato's Hike, and it's an adventure-based coding story, and it's not as heavy on the coding as maybe some things are, but it does allow the kids to solve this problem of taking Cato on a hike, and it's a really good way to get some reluctant kids that think that coding is too hard, and they hear that coding word and they get all stressed out. Cato's Hike is really good for that because they really think it's a game, which is what they think with a lot of these apps anyways, which is kind of nice for that. Another coding app that I have discovered that I really like is the Foos. It's Foos. I know that it's for iOS. I'm not sure what other operating systems it functions with, but you're essentially a little monster, and you use coding to move the monster and solve some problems to get him to do some things, and there's a lot of cause and effect and multiple solutions allowed. The students, as they complete the challenges, are given between 1 and 3 stars depending on how efficient their code is. So then you get to looking and you can talk to them about, well, how could you have made that code in less steps, and talk about those things. And my new favorite for my older students, because I found with students that have worked through, because this is our second year doing the Hour of Code, and I've got a lot of kids that are in my computer club and other activities where they have done a lot of coding and are ready to really move on and create their own games without following the more template-based coding. Touch Develop, it's a product of Microsoft, and came kind of out of the Microsoft Innovative Educator Network was how I first heard of it, but it is a web app essentially, and it works on any device. I have used it on Android devices. I have actually created a game from start to finish that is very similar to an Flappy Bird kind of activity game on my iPad. It works on iPhones. It works on anything with a web browser essentially, and it's not an HTML5. It is HTML5 compatible, so you don't have any Flash issues. But that is a great program, and it is text-based to an extent, but it's a selection menu. So my kids have really liked that and have come up with some pretty fabulous stuff. And another great thing about Touch Develop is that it does have a lot of tutorials and some step-by-step wizards to get kids creating and customizing their own kinds of activities and games. And it works with some different languages, and the kids are able to actually go in and see the text code that they are writing as they are selecting things, and then can move to the text editor and type their code in. So I find it to be a really great bridge between these pictorial-based coding apps to text coding. So those are some of my favorite apps, and Laura, I'll let you add what you would like to about some of those that you've got on there.
Thanks, Mary. Just today, for example, we, in our computer lab, one of our centers was to use our iPads, and then also to be working on the computer on different web-based, templates like the Angry Birds or the Frozen activity. And the students on the iPads were using Daisy the Dinosaur or Amazing Alex, and we let them choose which app they would like to try. And the principal came in, and she's like, "Did you show them how to do this?" And I'm like, "No. They just picked it up themselves." And so they were programming Daisy to go across, to move all around and move the blocks, and they were solving the different mazes and challenges in the Amazing Alex app as well. Some had some questions, but then it was also interesting to see how the students started helping each other and collaborating. "Oh, I know how to get that soccer ball past those ramps," and so they would show each other how to do it. And that made the activity even better for them to be collaborating and sharing with each other. Later on, we're going to talk about some more activities that we're actually doing at school as well, because we're going to be adding in some activities next week as we continue working on our hour of code.
And this is just kind of like a preview for you. The real Hour of Code stuff is going to be showing up next week. So this is really the network's preview. So definitely, Laura's and Mary are going to talk a little bit more, but definitely come for their full 1 hour session next week. So you can learn more about that. Now, for us in the games and sims, and if Tanya and Chris want to jump in, please do jump in. I know everybody has colds, so you might not be jumping in. But really, why do we care about it? Well, you need coding to do game design. And Mary and Laura could not have been talked about the gamer disposition among their elementary kids any better than they did. But they really do. It's a certain attitude. It's this attitude where let's give this a try. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, let's see exactly how we can do this. How can I tweak this? How can I tweak that? And it's really known as the gamer disposition. And this is from an article that John Seeley Brown and Douglas Thomas wrote, like in 2007. And I know it sounds almost 10 years old, but really we are just starting to talk about what other people have already written about years ago. But here's what I really wanted to have you think about, whether or not you're teaching coding, to really start to talk to your students about this so you can understand how coding is showing up in their lives, even when they're not even thinking about it. And this is really the modding culture. So if your students play games, chances are that they use an add-on or a mod. Like Minecraft has like almost 1 million of them. Well, don't take me literally, but there's so many mods that go on. And mods are not built by the game developer. They're built by the community, the fans, the people who play it, going in there, learning code, maybe a lot, maybe a little, and just going in and tweaking things and building more and being part of this big participatory culture. And these are just some of the things why somebody might mod a game is, they might want better play. I mean, it might be somebody like Tanya who wants a better outfit on her character. Someone might want to just and I'll use the term hacking, just to see how they can reverse things and just make things a little bit better. And a lot of the modding also goes into these great things like researching and putting in an artistic expression and cooperation. So even though they might not be writing the code for that game from scratch, they are going in, reconfiguring it, and playing with it, and that's something called modding. And actually, it was James G. in his books on gaming and literacy that started to mention about the gaming culture and also about literacy. So this big one that I wanted to show you is, if you guys, anybody out there feels like it, go ahead and type in curse client. Okay, and what you'll get is this huge website where you can see all the hundreds and thousands of even add-ons and mods that have been made for these games. So it's everybody, all these people who are playing have decided to go and play with code and see how that they can go ahead and improve these games. So kind of our challenge, so that you can start talking to students, if you want to, more about this, is it's our modding challenge to talk to your students about this. Now I know we sent Laura and Trish, one of our other favorites. We gave them a challenge to talk to their students about what videos they like to watch when it comes to Minecraft. And what machinima and who's making those videos. Well, now we're going to put the challenge out. It's going to be a modding challenge. So talk to your students. Ask them, really simple, what's your favorite game? They'll talk to you an hour about it. So cut it a little shorter. And then ask them and use the term, hey, are there any mods or add-ons for their favorite games? And see what they have to say. I mean, if you want to, you can even have them come up to the front and Google it, or if they're on iPads, you can have them pull it up, and you can have it share it with the other kids. Now, Think about this in the hour of coding so that they can really see how this coding is relevant for them. And then ask them if they ever made a mod or changed the code or script of a mod. Now, they may have, they may not have, but it's okay. It's about this conversation and allowing them to realize it, what they can do. You could also do a follow-up and ask them what language their game uses. They may or may not know it. It's okay. Or if they do, that gives you a really good idea of what might be popular. And I'm going to just put up the screen because Chris just pulled up like the cursed client, and you just see how many different. And he pulled up World of Warcraft, one of our favorite games that now has back to 10 million users. But these are all the different add-ons and mods that were made by players, not by the company, for things that help with the game and make the game more enjoyable. And Chris is like looking at some of the more popular ones right now. But there are so many different ones. And I know Chris uses World of Warcraft to teach economics and business. And he's pulling up all the business ones. So all the math and statistics and where you'd be learning about economics, he's pulling all those up now. Now, all of these things that when your students are playing a game, chances are also loaded onto their computer, they will also have something else that's helping them. So I just want you to think, so that you can talk to your students about how mods and add-ons are just showing up everywhere in all the games that they play. And so I will go on, and I'm going to turn it over now back to Laura so she can tell you a little bit more about what they're having fun with and doing.
Okay, thanks, Kay. In addition to some of the code.org/learn coding activities, such as the Angry Birds activity and the new Frozen activity, we're even seeing the boys like the Frozen activity as well. And that's a little bit more advanced. We're actually using that with our grades 3 through 5 classes. This coming week, we're actually going to be introducing our B-bots. And I've created all different kinds of maps according to the different skills that the different grade levels are working on. So, for example, with kindergarten, we will have a mat grid that has alphabet letters and initial sound pictures on it. And so as they program the B-bot to go around that particular mat, it'll be differentiated because some of the students will just name the actual alphabet letter, and then for others, we're actually going to have them say the sound of the letter and also say a word that starts with that particular letter. And for some, we could even go to, a word that ends with that letter. So we can really, stretch that activity with just regular alphabet letters on a grid on the mat. For other grades, we're putting in some math problems as they go around with the B-bots. For third grade, for example, we have a world map that has a grid over top of it, and third grade studies several ancient civilizations. So we're going to be going from one country to the other, identifying continents and oceans for a review, as we also use coding at the same time. One of the other fun activities we're going to be using is the Robot Turtles board game. And this is one you don't need technology for at all. It has many different cards that go with it and different markers that move around the game board. And students do learn the same kinds of commands, forward, turns, and things like that as they go through and complete different challenges on the game board. As you can see there, we've had our fifth graders, they also work toward a certificate, and one of the reasons we're doing our hour of code for 2 weeks is because our students come to our computer lab just for a half an hour because we have so many classes that are coming, so that's how our schedule sort of fits in. But the following week when they come, they'll have many different choices to use our different iPad apps, like some of those ones that we talked about earlier, as well as doing the B-bot activities and the Robot Turtle activities too. And Mary, would you like to jump in and talk about some activities you're going to be working on with your students?
Certainly. I see students for 45 minutes a week, so we're also working right now on a 2 to 3 week plan. We actually had our students all go through the entire hour of code, not just the hour of code, but that full class last year that was available on code.org. So a lot of my students are ready to obviously move beyond that. So I've given them a challenge to choose either to come up with a game that they could use to teach younger students how to code, so kind of having them create their own offline activities. So I've got some of my crafty girls that are getting ready to build board games and different things, very similar actually to the Robot Turtle board game, which is kind of neat in that they are taking that in their own hands and creating it. Additionally, we've got some students that are actually using different I've got a couple of boys that are writing some JavaScript, and we'll see how that pans out, but they are very excited about it. And a lot of students are using Touch Develop to create their own games at this point. Like I said, the way that my classroom is set up, it's very much a makerspace, so they have some options there. I do have one student that is exploring G-code and the MakerBot printer to see if they can make a box using G-code. So I'm impressed that he even wants to try it. So I have found an actual script for a box that after he's finished, we're going to compare his to and kind of see how that works out. But it's been quite the adventure to kind of see what they are interested in this year, because of course last year they worked through the tutorials, and that was much more of a let's go ahead and try this way, and then this year it's been a let's see what you can do with it, and it's been really kind of cool and different.
Okay. In Broward County in South Florida, we happen to be one of the districts, one of the 30 or so districts that is totally partnered with code.org. So we use this week. Of course, we have students that are doing it in our classes, elementary, middle, and high school, but we use this week as a kickoff for the following year and as a kickoff for the application process for adults, for the teachers in various schools who want to apply to be a coding teacher. And then they will be involved starting in the spring and the summer with learning how to use the ECS curriculum, the Exploring Computer Science curriculum, and then the following year the JavaScript curriculum that will be used for the AP exam. We use the code.org material from their website, and the photograph that you see here is last year's coding activity with some of my colleagues. Because we do it district-wide, I happen to be in professional development, we do it in all our offices. We have a 14-story building downtown, and everybody there participates in some hour of code somewhere at some point in time during the week. I'm off of that site, but whoever happened to be at the PD site where I work, we did an Unplugged activity, which you see here, which is an activity that they described very explicitly in the code.org website. And this year, of course, we're going to do a plugged activity, so we're going to be doing the Frozen and the Angry Birds and using the Scratch curriculum just as some activities. And it's funny because I'm working with adults, but a lot of them are saying, I'm going to go home and do this with my child. And of course, when they get home, this is what they reported to me last year, their kid did it too. So, their kids are doing it during the day. The adults who work at the district are doing it as well. And then, of course, it's a kickoff for our annual application process for those teachers who want to participate in code.org all year long. So that's what we're doing in Broward.
Okay, so at Front Range, we're using it as an opportunity for our online learning department. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting up basically the Unplugged activity that you saw, the picture that Tanya just showed, but we're going to be doing it as a Hangout, and we are going to have our 3 separate campuses competing. Now, these are our adults. and it's twofold. One, so we can show a coding activity, and 2, how we can show how things synchronously online can be a lot of fun. So that's what our plan is for it. And we're doing it, and I'm at a community college, and it is our week of finals. So our students aren't going to be doing a lot of it, but like I said, we'll have some of our instructors blowing off some steam doing it. So then if, Laura, if you want to talk about where you can find some additional resources.
Absolutely. One of the cool things that we just sent out this past Monday, actually, with our Mini-Mag mobile learning newsletter is a shared Google Doc where anyone can get resources, contribute resources. I think right now it's in the beginning stages, but we're hoping that more will add to that document as well. Definitely the code.org website has a whole section which is really great for teacher resources and ideas and activities, lessons, posters, videos, all those different types of things that teachers can use. So those are great resources as well. Do you guys know of any other resources that you are all using?
Why, yes, that would be the next slide. And we wanted to show this because this just popped up. Where can you find resources? I don't know if you guys were looking at Google today, and I'm going to make sure that I screen share this properly. So let me find my screen share that will do this.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second and say
please
that
do.
I had computer club this afternoon. I do an extracurricular computer club for 3rd through 5th graders, and they were working on their projects. And I had a friend that showed me the Christmas tree thing, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, and I had not played with it. And before I could even get to the site to show it to them, I had 2 of my boys that had come up and had programmed a Christmas tree and were happy as they could be about it.
Yeah, and it was the same thing for me. Like I got a Google Plus thing going, oh, and it was sent out, and it was like, Kay, Tanya, have you seen this? And I go, well, yeah, I'm adding it to I think it's an 8. But anyway, just go to Google, www.google.com, and then Google has gotten into it. So it's really cool. So what I'm saying is that you can go in here. It's a fun activity, and it's just very, very easy to find and can be holiday related. And right now you might be looking for something that's a little more holiday related. So I'm going to go back to what we had outlined. Okay, so Laura, take it away with the mobile learning event for next week.
Yes, actually, we have a webinar coming up. Susan Wells, our professional development chairperson for the Mobile Learning Network, is going to be leading sort of an open mic webinar, and we'll be sharing all kinds of different apps and websites and tools and robotics, all different kinds of strategies as well, and we encourage anyone who would like to attend to come and share their activities too. One of the other events I forgot to put on the slide is actually on December 15th in Second Life, and the Mobile Learning Network has a location in Second Life where we do monthly meetings and app smashing and sharing about apps and mobile strategies. Sometimes we have presentations. Kay and Chris have done presentations with us as well, and so we're excited about that too because we're actually using another form for professional development by using Second Life, which can be really, really helpful to educators for networking, collaborating, and gaining resources and ideas. So those are 2 events coming up from the ISTE Mobile Learning Network.
And let me make a plug for your Second Life one. While Tanya and Chris are not in Second Life, there is something of a difference when you can have an animated 3D figure. And you're seeing us, and we're basically talking heads, right? Okay, but
I'm a jumping head.
And I'm making Chris and Tanya model. But the thing of it is, if you can bring it into this digital environment, there's so many more things that you can have people do, that you can do, and that you can do with your avatar. And this is just yes, Tanya's waving, but it's synchronous and it's online and it's learning and it just opens up another avenue. So I think it's absolutely great that mobile learning has moved into this atmosphere too. And I think Chris might be running around a little bit more at this point in time, but it just gives you additional things to take a look at. So Tanya, why don't you let everybody know what Games and Sims is doing next week?
Well, actually, I'm at the location where the Games and Simulation Network is co-sponsoring the event with the Inevitable Betrayal Guild. Last year, we were in World of Warcraft, and we did create some macros where you, like the mods that Kay was talking about. We created the code that was required to make our avatars, our cartoons, be more effective, more efficient, and we played with that a little bit. So on the Sisters of Elune server, this year we're going on December 10th at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and if you take a look at me, here I am in the Hour of Code Guild. So we formed a guild specifically for the event, and especially for the event. It's on the Cenarian Circle realm, and if you want to join us on December 10th at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, pop in a little early, and we'll give you a tabard like this one, and we'll give you an invite to the Hour of Code Guild, and we ask that you give yourself a name that is somehow associated with coding. You see my tune is For Next. I think Chris is If Else. And the picture on the right of the slide is a few of the people who have already joined, and you can see that they're already in the guild, and they already have the tabard on, and they're ready to go. So on December 10th at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, we are going to be gathering on the Cenarian Circle realm in World of Warcraft, and we will be creating macros, which requires some coding, some simple coding. We'll be creating some codes. We have very small tunes, which means they're not very high powered, they're low level. So even if you've never ever played, you can join, and we're all very small there. And the code that we're going to write is going to be something a little amusing rather than something, that's going to help us fight. It's actually, we're going to create a performance, and if there's time in that hour, we will travel the world of Azeroth and do our performances by activating the codes that we've written. And we'll probably be filming it, so even if you don't get there, you'll be able to see the performances. That's our plan.
And that's a little bit about we kind of in Games and Sim, we know you might not have time to write do a full game during your hour of code, but talking to your students and getting them to think about how coding affects them, and maybe having them write a little, even if it's in the game that they already play, we think that this is a nice way to spend the hour and for you guys to learn a little bit more about it. So to wrap up, because we are wrapping up now, the only other thing I wanted to say is that the Virtual Education Journal is coming out this Sunday. Their featured story is going to be on coding, and we have interviews with a couple of the people here who are in the Hangout, and the interview about the power of code, I think, is really great. Laura, you put pretty close to your lesson plan that you're going to be doing for 2 weeks in there. And then I know Chris talked about how pervasive coding is when it comes to the different fields, and I know Tanya, you went into more detail about what they're doing in professional development. So that's how we want to end this preview. So all I have to say, from Games and Sim, and I'm going to assume also from the mobile people, happy hour of code and go code, right?
Everyone can code.
Yes, everyone. Yes, everyone can code. There's no question about it. So bye, everybody. Hope to see you at some of these activities next week. Bye.
Take care.